Ladies and gentlemen, President Trump presided over the Abraham Accords, the beginning of peace between Israel, UAE, Bahrain, Morocco, and hopefully other countries soon. President Trump presided over the beginning of peace, a roadmap towards peace between North and South Korea. He was the first president to step foot in North Korea. Those are two fantastic accomplishments that President Moon Jae-in and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of their respective countries, or leaders of each country, we know that the accomplishments were amazing because the leaders of each country wanted President Biden's administration to continue Trump's foreign policy. You can look, and there are articles saying President Moon Jae-in encourages Biden's White House to continue what Trump started. Same with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He wants Biden to continue what Trump has started. You can look. There were economic deals between Serbia and Kosovo. We had record low unemployment throughout most of President Trump's tenure. I suggest and I urge everyone to take a screenshot of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. It is still stuck on December of 2020. Okay, December of 2020. President Trump was still president. Okay, you have the top 12 states, including Washington, D.C., so top 11 states and Washington, D.C., that with the highest unemployment rates were all Democratic run. Literally every single one. Not Trump's fault. Okay? Can't say that he tanked the economy because of the pandemic, because Democratic governors tanked their own economies and then presided, unfortunately, over the worst outcomes. That's not Trump's fault. And so when you look at what President Trump was able to do, he had record low unemployment throughout most of his tenure. So much so that wonderful, morally superior liberals, fantastic people like Bill Maher, for example, who said, we need a recession. Well, he got that and more. But people were actually talking about how a recession would save democracy. Well, how on earth has President Biden saved democracy or upheld the Constitution in the past month? You've had the Lincoln Project implode, and they're still going after Trump, even though they removed the now disgraced political organization from their profile on Twitter. I don't have Twitter, but I can see what they're talking about. This is a precursor to the fact that President Trump did great things. He allocated more funding to historically black colleges and universities than any president ever. He presided over prison reform legislation, signed the First Step Act. He doesn't get credit for anything. He was a complete disaster, according to his detractors. Whereas what? President Biden's administration thus far has done what? Nothing. The same things that caused outrage on the left are taking place right now. Cages, everything. And you look, Liz Cheney has voted alongside President Trump 92% of the time. So how on earth, when you like the Washington Post today was talking about how, the conservative political action committee, the Conservative Political Action Conference, it's not conservative at all. In fact, conservatives stand for this and that. Conservatives used to stand for Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld's horrendous foreign policy that set us on a course of never-ending war and military conflict. That's what conservatives used to be about. That's what President Trump changed and altered forever, thank God. The Republican Party is Trump. There is no Republican Party aside from President Trump. Even Mitt Romney admitted that. There's nobody. Because the thing is, the worst thing about Trump was his Twitter presence. Now he's not on Twitter. Now hopefully he can communicate to the world that he's a human being. He's made missteps like other presidents. But you can't blame the pandemic on Trump. Because look at what Biden... Is Biden doing anything differently? Tell me what Biden is doing to save people's lives. Tell me. I want to know. Is he doing anything differently from Trump? What? And you have the same medical experts. Here, I don't even want to get into it. But you look at what President Trump has been able to accomplish. And you look at the fact that his detractors voted alongside him. here is tracking Congress in the age of Trump. Liz Cheney, you can actually, I'll put this below. Liz Cheney has a score of 92.9%. Okay? 92.9%. She actually voted against preventing President Trump from engaging in military action without congressional approval. So you can't say that she is opposing a madman. She allowed this alleged orange menace. Orange menace. This is my impression of Mitch McConnell going after Orange menace. And by the way, hit subscribe to this channel right now. I'll have a live stream later this evening at about 8 p.m. But hit subscribe to this channel if you want to support my voice long term. My Patreon is below. You can go to hagoodman.com if you want to read my writing in The Hill, the Huffington Post Salon. But you can look. I'm not the biggest fan of 538, but they actually sometimes have really cool things. And tracking Congress in the age of Trump. So, I mean, something like 538 here and there has really, really awesome, portions of their website that you can look. You can actually, the case to vote again for President Trump in 2024, you can utilize 538, the Washington Post, New York Times, MSNBC, CNN. You don't have to even go to conservative publications. Just look right here, tracking Congress in the age of Trump, 92.9% score. How often Cheney votes in line with Trump's position? I mean, she practically voted 100% of the time with Trump, and yet she's the moral voice against him? She's the moral voice? And it has nothing to, I know that she's a different person, but her father presided over the worst military decisions. The Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld years are why we have President Trump running the Republican Party. Okay? Republicans went from Reagan to George W. Bush. From the great communicator to a person who not only couldn't communicate, was the biggest imbecile on the planet, who relied on Cheney and Rumsfeld to really, preside over the most horrendous decision-making, the worst military and foreign policy decision-making. And that's not the fault of the men and women who served. We owe them better than Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld, and who are still serving now. We owe them better than the Lincoln Project foreign policy. You look, these people are still going after President Trump. And they're saying, my whole thing is, I want Americans to be brought home from never-ending counterinsurgency conflicts. It's not Germany and Japan. If you say it's Germany and Japan, it's completely different. They weren't counterinsurgency conflicts where battles where military confrontations took place all the time after 1945. So you can't say, well, we have Americans in Germany, we have Americans in Japan. What's the difference? Big difference. You can't just send Americans off to Syria and then President Trump brings them home or wants to remove them to eventually bring them home. You can't just say, well, we'll just keep them there forever. That makes no sense, and that hurts U.S. national security, especially when you have other countries there and when there's no clearly defined national interest for us to be there. And it's immoral to send Americans off away from their families, their husbands, their wives, their sons, their daughters, their fathers, their mothers. It's immoral. But see, again, Democrats, their view of morality is very different from what normally would be issues pertaining to good and evil. It is wrong to engage in a course of never-ending wars, which is what we're still, even though the media doesn't continually show you this, we have Americans in harm's way 24/7 throughout the world, especially in that region of the world, because of Liz Cheney's people like, Dick Cheney and Rumsfeld and Bush, which is why President Trump runs the Republican Party. Also, you cannot have a takeover, or you can't take control of the GOP away from President Trump when the people trying to take control vote alongside him over 90% of the time. So she, again, took a swipe at Trump, and Freedom Caucus members urged Cheney to step down from GOP leadership role. So she was censured by Republicans Wyoming. The Freedom Caucus is telling her to step down. And even Mitt Romney said, yeah, Trump would easily become the GOP nominee if he ran again. So, let's read this here. The chair of the conservative House Freedom Caucus is urging Representative Liz Cheney to step down from her position as the number 3 House Republican in leadership over her latest critical comments of former President Trump. She should step down. Representative Andy Biggs of Arizona told reporters on Thursday. And Representative Chip Roy of Texas, another House Freedom Caucus member, said Cheney has forfeited her right to be the chair of the Republican. Okay, the calls by Biggs and Roy for Cheney to relinquish, and you have Devin Nunes, you have Matt Gaetz. I know Matt Gaetz and Jim Jordan were opposed what she was saying also. During a House Republican leadership briefing with reporters Wednesday, both Cheney and House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy of California were asked if Trump should have a prominent speaking role at the Conservative Political Action Committee conference. Yes, he should. McCarthy said in a brief response, Cheney said, that's up to them. I've been clear about my views of President Trump and the extent to which I don't believe he should be playing a role in the future of their party or the country. Yeah, but you voted alongside him 92%. So you don't believe he should play a role, but you believe the Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld neoconservative political action committee should play a role? You think they were better for the country? And they presided over a recession, almost a depression, so horrendous that President Bush and President Obama had to bail out our financial system. Wow, what a fantastic presidency George W. Bush, the true conservative, had. These people are phonies and fakes. And when it comes down to it, they have no problem with Trump's policies. They have no problem. They have a problem with his personality, his image. They don't like his image. He doesn't... Look, I've had a great deal of reasoned, rational... offered a great deal of critique from the vantage point, like, I want President Trump and what he created to prosper. I want a complete reversal of U.S. foreign policy, which was what President Trump was on his way to achieving. I mean, we were able to reverse 16 years of failed foreign policy decisions. Okay? Especially removing our presence from a region of the world we shouldn't be in. And in terms of economic policy, we had, for President Trump's tenure, record low unemployment for most of his tenure. Again, the pandemic, they keep on saying, a year to this day, Trump said everything was under control. A year to this day, almost March 1st of 2020, Andrew Cuomo, New York's governor, who's being investigated right now for his horrendous decision-making, New York's governor, tweeted out, and I believe the tweet's still there, the risk remains low for the people of New York. There's no reason for undue anxiety. So, and if you tell this, like, it's really unbelievable. You tell this to people, and they don't, like, logic, reason, fact, they're impervious to any of this. And then they pontificate about how Trumpers don't like facts. Oh, my God. It's like... they're the ones who perpetuate a myth and a tinfoil hat fantasy Trump worked with Russia. God forbid you make claims based on sentiment, and it's like, oh no, you can't. Oh my goodness. They presided over months of chaos and mayhem on the streets of this country. $1 billion to $2 billion in property damage. 19 lives lost, according to Wikipedia. And then suddenly they're always outraged, and they outrage. And that's why 74 million Americans voted for President Trump. They see through everything. And the people who didn't vote for President Trump either didn't vote for him in 2016 or were just tired of the media meltdown. They stomped their feet, they yelled and screamed and scratched and clawed, and the outrage meter was on 11 out of 10 every single day, and they got what they wanted. Trump was a tyrant, a despot, a horrible human being, the worst person on the planet. Oh my God, the most horrendous human being to ever exist. And now they have President Biden doing the same things, or at least pretty like the issues that got them really in an uproar. Same things are taking place. I can't really get into, but that's the duplicity of the Democratic Party. That's the hypocrisy of so many people on the left. It's unbelievable. But you have Liz Cheney. She voted alongside Trump over 92% of the time. And now she's the moral voice against Trump. Like, no. He was acquitted for a reason. Ask yourself why he was acquitted twice. There should never have been protests that day. There should have been a discourse, national debate, dialogue. If he didn't get that, he should have just simply, this is what should have happened. President Trump, in hindsight, should have simply just congratulated Biden and then continued with whatever he wanted to continue with in terms of what he thought. But in doing so, creating some kind of national dialogue discourse, he should have gone on Joe Rogan. President Trump should go on Joe Rogan tomorrow. It's not just Joe Rogan. He should go on Tim Pool. He should go on Brandon Tatum. He should go on the top conservative channels. Million sub to 4 million sub Steven Crowder. Tomorrow, if he did that, the interview would have 30 to 40 million views. It would break the internet. And he would seem human, and he would be... But see, again, President Trump didn't think outside the box. He just said, okay, here's Twitter. I'm just going to vent on Twitter. Every tweet gave Democrats more and more momentum, political momentum. Now you still have people who abandoned the Lincoln Project. You still have people who are going after Trump, looking at his tweets and ignoring the tweets from Eric Swalwell, who said, don't wear protective coverings. That's what Eric Swalwell said. I mean, these people are they're so duplicitous, and he eventually had a romantic relationship with a foreign intelligence operative. But the reason there's a double standard is not because of Democrats, media, intelligence operatives, Hollywood. It's because Republicans, like Mitt Romney, like Ben Sasse, like the Wyoming representative. And Wyoming censured her. Republicans in Wyoming censured her. So anyway, give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now. It's just unbelievable. If President Trump was just not on Twitter, his achievements would be the focus. And the outrage, the level of emotion, the emotional breakdown his opponents had wouldn't have served to bolster their angst and frustration and their political momentum against him. Anyway, give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now. I mean, there were things he shouldn't have said. He shouldn't have insulted LeBron James. He shouldn't have insulted NFL athletes. There are things he shouldn't have done that did him no good, and it didn't do the country any good because it didn't create any national dialogue. He needed to create dialogue and discourse. Trump's ideas, many of his ideas make sense. Okay, tariffs make sense. The Trans-Pacific Partnership does not make sense. Removing Americans from never-ending conflict makes a lot of sense. Anyway, give me prison reform legislation, allocating more funding to historically black colleges and universities. These things make sense. These are good things. But unfortunately, he doesn't get the credit now because of the Twitter, stuff. But hopefully, the next couple of years, you have 2022, where the Freedom Caucus is now the entire Republican Party. Republicans speak with one voice. They'll be able to push back against censorship and corrupt intelligence officials and suppression of thoughts and ideas. Give me your thoughts below. Thank you. I'll be here tonight for the live stream. Thank you.